This carton of eggs. You probably have one in your fridge, right? You paid a few dollars for it. A simple transaction, repeated millions of times a day across the globe. Simple, right? But what if I told you that when you bought this carton, you weren't just buying breakfast? You were participating in an ancient economic system, following a rulebook written nearly 1,000 years ago. You see a dozen eggs. A medieval English merchant saw a unit of currency. And the rules they used, born out of convenience and clever mathematics, are the same rules that are, to this day, quietly influencing your grocery bill. The number isn't an accident. It's not random. It's a code, a ghost of a forgotten monetary system, hiding in plain sight. And once you understand it, you will never look at this simple, everyday object the same way again. This carton of eggs. You probably have one in your fridge, right? You paid a few dollars for it. A simple transaction, repeated millions of times a day across the globe. Simple, right? But what if I told you that when you bought this carton, you weren't just buying breakfast? You were participating in an ancient economic system, following a rulebook written nearly 1,000 years ago. You see a dozen eggs. A medieval English merchant saw a unit of currency. And the rules they used, born out of convenience and clever mathematics, are the same rules that are, to this day, quietly influencing your grocery bill. The number isn't an accident. It's not random. It's a code, a ghost of a forgotten monetary system, hiding in plain sight. And once you understand it, you will never look at this simple, everyday object the same way again. The historical journey, a shilling for your thoughts. To understand the secret of the dozen, we have to rewind the clock. We're going to medieval England. After the Norman conquest in 1066, a system of currency began to solidify that would dominate for centuries: pounds, shillings, and pence. And at its heart was a key relationship: 12 pennies equaled 1 shilling. This wasn't arbitrary. The number 12 was woven into the very fabric of ancient life. There were 12 months in a year and 12 signs of the zodiac. 12 was seen as a number of cosmic order. And for the everyday person, it was just practical. Picture a bustling medieval market. It's loud, chaotic, and everything is traded in small units. A farmer has eggs to sell. A baker has bread. A shopper has a few coins. To make transactions simple, to avoid complicated math, a standard emerged. If small goods like an egg were valued around a penny, then for the price of 1 silver shilling, you could buy exactly 12 of them. No haggling, no tricky fractions. 1 shilling, 12 eggs. Done. This wasn't just for eggs. Bread, rolls, and other small goods were often sold the same way, grouped into dozens for the clean price of a shilling. It was the original bulk discount, a system of commercial shorthand that helped markets run smoothly. By the time of Queen Elizabeth I in the late 1500s, selling by the dozen was standard practice in England. It was no longer just convenience, it was tradition. And when English settlers crossed the Atlantic to North America, they didn't just bring their language and laws. They brought their grocery habits. The dozen had jumped the ocean, embedding itself in a new continent long before it was ever a country. But there was a dark side to this system. In a world where bread was life, cheating customers was a serious crime. Bakers in 13th century England were known for sometimes selling undersized loaves. To stop this, King Henry III enacted a strict law in 1266 called the Assize of Bread and Ale. This law tied the weight of a loaf to the price of grain. If a baker was caught selling underweight bread, the punishments were severe: public beatings or being locked in a pillory. Even honest bakers were terrified. Flour is inconsistent, ovens have hot spots, and loaves lose an unpredictable amount of weight as they bake. So, to avoid any risk of accidentally shorting a customer and facing the king's wrath, they started a practice of self-preservation. They'd throw in an extra loaf for every dozen sold. This vantage loaf ensured the total weight was always over the legal limit. And so, the baker's dozen was likely born, not as a gimmick, but as an insurance policy against medieval justice. The mathematical genius why 12 is better than 10, so the shilling died. The decimal system won. And by all logic, the dozen should have died with it. But here's where the story gets really interesting. For centuries, this system worked perfectly. But then, the world changed. The French Revolution ushered in a new, logical way of thinking, the decimal system. Base 10. A system based on our 10 fingers. It was elegant, modern, and rational. It swept the globe, becoming the standard for currency, science, and nearly all measurements. The old ways of pounds, shillings, and pence were swept away. The shilling, the very coin that gave the dozen its purpose, was gone. So, here's the central mystery. If the monetary system that created the dozen disappeared, why didn't the dozen disappear with it? Why do we still cling to this ancient number in our supposedly modern world? The answer is profoundly simple. It's not just tradition. It's because, for the practical purposes of everyday life, 12 is just better. It has a hidden mathematical superpower. The number 12 is what mathematicians call a highly composite number. That's a fancy term for a simple idea. It has a lot of divisors for its size. Let's break it down. Think about the number 10, the foundation of our modern world. You can only divide it evenly 4 ways, by 1, 2, 5, and 10. Now, think about 12. You can divide 12 by 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 12. It has 50% more factors, making it incredibly flexible. Imagine you have a carton of 10 eggs and a household of 3 people. How do you split them? Each person gets 3, and you have 1 awkward, leftover egg. What about a family of 4? 2 eggs each, with 2 left over. It creates waste. Now, imagine a dozen eggs. A household of 2 gets 6 each. A household of 3 gets 4 each. A family of 4 gets 3 each. A family of 6 gets 2 each. Perfect splits, almost every time. This is the same reason numbers like 60, which is just 5 times 12, are so useful for telling time, and why 360 degrees, 30 times 12, works so well for circles. While these systems have their own ancient roots in Babylonian base 60 math, they thrive on the same principle. Numbers that divide cleanly are just easier to use. This mathematical elegance meant that even as currencies changed, the dozen remained the most practical unit for buying, selling, and sharing. It was the Goldilocks number, not too big, not too small. Seriously, if someone sat down today and tried to design the perfect number for buying and sharing food, they'd probably invent 12 all over again. It was just right. It aligned perfectly with different household sizes and cooking needs. Halves, thirds, and quarters are the most common fractions we use, and 12 is perfectly suited to all of them. Our brains, like those of medieval shoppers, intuitively get that 12 is a number built for sharing. The decimal system may be scientifically rational, but a system based on 12 is humanly rational. The enduring legacy cardboard, commerce, and culture, the math ensured its survival, but it was a simple invention that cemented the dozen's rule forever. For most of history, eggs were transported in baskets, padded with straw. It was messy, inefficient, and fragile. Breakage was a huge problem. That all changed in 1911. The story goes that a hotel owner in British Columbia was arguing with a local farmer over constantly broken eggs. It was the kind of heated, everyday dispute that usually leads nowhere, just two frustrated men and a pile of cracked shells. A newspaper editor named Joseph Coyle overheard them and was inspired. He didn't just walk away and forget about it. He went home, sat down, and started sketching. Within a short time, he had designed something nobody had ever seen before. He designed and patented a cardboard carton with individual, shock-absorbing pockets for each egg. And how many slots did he design it with? 12. Why? Because by then, the dozen was already the undisputed, universally understood unit for selling eggs. Coyle wasn't trying to invent a new system, he was creating a solution for the one that already existed. While other types of egg containers had been tried, Coyle's design was a massive commercial success and helped standardize the practice. The invention of the modern egg carton was the final lock. It institutionalized the dozen. The tradition was no longer just an idea, it was now a physical object, a piece of industrial design manufactured by the millions. The entire global supply chain, from the farm, to the truck, to the grocery store shelf, was built around the shape and count of the 12-egg carton. To change it now would be to redesign the entire industry. And so, the rule persists. You can see its power even in places where the metric system reigns. In parts of Europe, you can sometimes find eggs sold in packs of 10. But even there, the dozen and half dozen remain overwhelmingly popular. The system that grew from a medieval English shilling has proven too practical to die. The dozen is now so deep in our culture that it's become its own marketing tool. In 2025, the American Egg Board launched a major nutrition campaign with a title that leans on this powerful legacy, Stronger by the Dozen. The campaign highlights the many nutrients in eggs that support physical and mental strength. They're not just selling eggs, they're selling the implicit reliability and completeness of the number 12, a concept baked into our history for centuries. So the next time you walk into a grocery store and pick up that familiar cardboard carton, take a second to appreciate what you're really holding. You're not just holding breakfast. You're holding a piece of history. You're holding the ghost of a medieval currency, a system of shillings and pence that made trade possible. You're holding a testament to the mathematical genius of a number that divides more perfectly for human needs than the modern system we replaced it with. And you're holding the legacy of a simple invention, a cardboard box designed to solve a small town dispute, that locked an ancient rule into our modern world. History isn't just something in dusty books. It's all around us. It's in the language we speak, the holidays we celebrate, and sometimes, it's hidden in the most mundane of places, the refrigerator. The ancient rule is still there, quietly shaping your world, one dozen at a time. What other hidden histories do you know of, hiding in plain sight in our everyday lives? Let us know in the comments. Or here's one to think about: next time you crack open an egg for breakfast, does it feel any different knowing a medieval king's currency system put it in your hand? Let us know in the comments below, we read every single one. And if you enjoyed uncovering this secret, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss our next journey into the surprising stories behind the world you think you know.